up, and welcome to the Manifest That Shit podcast. This is your girl, Latoya Beverly, aka your spiritual guide and business coach. This is a place where we're going to be talking about money, sex, and love, unapologetic, real, raw, uncut, and no strings attached. I'm going to be talking about how to slay, hustle, inspire, and thrive always, because that's what we do here at the Manifest That Shit podcast. So I look forward to seeing you in this upcoming episode. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latoya Beverly, with the Manifest That Shit podcast. Welcome to episode 9. So I want to get real and get right into it. You know how I'm all about money, love, sex, and some. This episode is going to be a very special episode. It is almost the end of 2017. This year has been phenomenal, and it also has been, it's been endearing. I know I have recently experienced just going back home to California, Sacramento, to be exact. And usually I stay in the Bay Area and I kind of stay away from Sacramento. For those of you who are not familiar and this is your first time listening to my podcast, I am a spiritual success coach, and I also help those to build their online business. And basically, all in all, I'm a psychic medium. I have a lot of different healing and spiritual gifts, and I'm not afraid to come out of the closet and to say that is what I am and that is what I do. And if you're not into manifesting and a namaste, then so be it, right? But that's what we're here about, right? Accepting all those who walk this earth for who they are, equality, and really just coming as you are. That's what this podcast is about. So this is going to be a very powerful episode because I'm going to talk about my own life and my own personal experience of being a survivor of child sexual abuse and also being a survivor of generational healing. I realized on this trip, I bought my my fiance. I hate calling him boyfriend because it's like we're too old for all that. But I brought my fiance, Vernon, on this trip with me. This is the first trip that we were actually going to be staying at my dad's house. And I was looking forward to seeing my sister. She's in the Navy. So she's actually stationed in Sacramento, somewhere on the West Coast is fine with me. And so I was just thrilled to be able to have her home and spend time with her and just my whole family, my grandmother. So here's a little backstory. So my grandfather was killed in 2015 on the job. A forklift somebody had hit him while a forklift had hit him while he was walking, and sadly, tragically busted his head. And obviously, things for my grandmother, things for me, and the rest of those who loved him really changed the dynamics in our family. And there were also a lot, he's not my blood grandfather, but to me, he was blood. He's the only grandfather I knew who actually made an effort to be in me and my sister's lives. And I got a chance to live with my grandparents after high school, coming here to Arizona, being new. And we were able to develop, a pretty decent bond. And so I go on to share this story with you. So when I went through my sexual abuse, any person who's abused, emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever, you're silenced. There's a lot that is not broken down when you're a child, or even if you're feared and you're an adult, right? But a lot of my feelings and my emotions came out as an adult. And so it kind of did I was 20 years old, was dealing with life, and my dad always sat there and taught us, the real world is going to care for your tears, and, this is the real world, and you got to go out here and, nobody cares, nobody. So it was kind of like, okay, you're getting pushed out. I left home at 18, went to go live with my grandparents. I needed a place where I could find love and unconditional love, right? And my grandparents were so warm and loving and caring and just non-judgmental. So it was a really great place for me to stay while I got my feet wet and got on my feet, got a job, got my first, real adult job working at the bank, and started college. And, I was trying to take some shortcuts in life as well. And I was in a relationship with a Marine, and we were engaged and everything, but that didn't go through. 2000 and, or 9/11 had happened in 2001. And then by 2003, he was off to war. And so, he ended up coming back, to the States, and he had a strong case of PTSD. And from there, I felt abandoned. It was the first relationship where I trusted a man in my life, and I really, was just able to feel safe from harm. God truly blessed me to have a very good first experience in love, falling in love and losing my virginity and feeling safe with someone. So then fast forward, maybe about a year later, I ended up meeting somebody else, and probably months later, I ended up meeting somebody else, which ended up becoming my ex-husband. And we weren't married for that long, but I just totally did everything wrong, right? I mean, so much shit was fucked up. I was just trying to make a right or wrong. But little did I know that there is no right or wrong. And that's what we need to stop judging ourselves on, right? So fast forward, I had a lot of childhood feelings. My inner child was just hurting. It was so bruised and damaged, and I didn't get a chance to really come out and say how angry I was for my dad not coming to save us and rescue us from what we were going through, and feeling alone. And then it wasn't his fault too, because my mom didn't tell my dad. She kind of basically kidnapped us, and we went to Georgia. And there were just all these things that were going on we just didn't have any awareness of and know. And so it was just trying to protect myself, trying to protect my sister, living in Georgia and all of that. And all these feelings, right, that come out when you're an adult. And so I got a chance to kind of have some coming to Jesus meetings with my father about how I felt. And although I loved him and he seemed like the ideal hero to me, I really realized that the story I was telling myself in my head of what was perfect and what was right, just because I wanted some stability, wasn't exactly the biggest story, right? I think that each and every single one of our parents, we might be a little closer to than the other. For me, I didn't really have much of a choice. I was trying to build a relationship with my mom that just had weakened. And then, having my dad there and guaranteed, granted, he definitely was there for me in many ways, but he was definitely not he's, military background. His father was very abusive. My dad was not abusive, but he was kind of neglectful emotionally in a lot of ways, and physically giving us love, right? And I think physical love, like a hug and just embrace from a man, is so important, especially if they have a lot of masculine energy, right? And just to have that safe moment that when you go home that yes, that parent's going to be tough on you, but also yes, you can cry in their arms and be embraced. And I think that was a lot of what I was missing, because I had been abused, unfortunately, by two men, one my uncle and one person who used to be my stepfather, and and there's a lot of trust involved, And so much had happened, obviously, in the course of 30-something years. And so I was able to get some things off my chest. And it also, to say to, my father, we're all human. Nobody is perfect. And nobody is going to be exactly what we're expecting somebody to be, right? And we don't live according to the next person's standards. We live according to our own standards and what feels right for us. And we constantly block ourselves and judge ourselves and put a glass ceiling over our head without really any other acknowledgement of what is our truth or not. So, I just really want to say to you guys that there is no right or wrong way. It is all based on how you feel, and it's all based on what you see in your life that wants to come to fruition. So I ask you guys today, what have you been silent about? What have you been blocked on? What have you allowed somebody, a parent, an aunt, an uncle, grandma, grandpa, cousins, adopted family, whomever, wherever you come from, what have you allowed somebody to have major control over that you have not been able to speak up? I felt completely, shut down. I felt bullied. Here I am. I was raised to be a very strong Black woman. But I also was raised to have a heart, and to care for others and to have consideration and patience. But yet people who teach you these things don't even have the same damn, feelings or whatever, right? So, it just cracked me up. I was like, what the fuck, So it was definitely mind-boggling. I don't want, my future children to ever be concerned about things that I had to heal from so many generations, right? So I told you about generational healing. You have spiritual DNA that is activated within yourself that comes from your ancestors, right? But you also have spiritual attachments of lessons that need to be learned in your new life that you need to claim, but you also have a choice to cut off. How are you going to move forward, and how are you going to do that? I ask you guys that, listeners, now. What have you been suffering from silently or been in denial of, right? What have you not been telling yourself the truth? You need to be able to be clear. You need to be able to speak up and to not allow anyone to shut you down emotionally. I want to be able to challenge you to heal from a generational standpoint. What are you saying no to today and moving forward? In building your legacy, how does that look? So I'm going to end it on this note because I'm going to do another podcast next week. And episode 10 is going to be phenomenal. I have some huge announcements that are coming. You're not going to want to miss this because, again, I'm going deep. I'm going to be plugging out the root. So this is episode 1 of Generational Healing and going deep and talking about what you need to do to really create and leave a legacy that's yours and not somebody else's. So thank you so much for joining me here. Episode 9 of the Manifest That Shit podcast. I love you guys so much, and I will see you at episode 2, part 2 of episode 10. And again, stay tuned to some huge announcements that I have coming for 2018. You won't want to miss it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Manifest That Shit podcast. With me, your host, Latoya Beverly. I am your spiritual guide and business coach. If you want to hear more about my services and how you can work with me one-to-one, feel free to reach out to me at manifestyourlegacy.com or follow me on IG at Manifest Your Legacy or Facebook at Manifest Your Legacy today. I so look forward to connecting with each and every single one of you and touching your soul and heart. And you know how I like it, honey. Real, raw, uncut, no bullshit, and no strings attached. Just all success and all love. So I look forward to seeing you on another episode.